Good morning, my fellow yoga travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, live the life we love. It's Thursday, so you know it's story day. I first heard this through Ramakrishna in his parables and tales, but then Joseph Campbell really gave a little extension of it, which is the way I've kind of adapted it. Once there was a tiger who, in giving birth to her cub, died, and the cub, being the kind of mammal that has a small window of opportunity to imprint on the maternal figure, walked away, not knowing what it was really seeking, impelled by its own DNA to make that connection to the figure to bond to, and it came across a herd of sheep. And the sheep, being social animals and knowing the difference between a tiger cub with no teeth and claws and a full-grown tiger, its natural predator, took the tiger cub in and began to raise it as one of its own. So it grew up learning sheep ways. It gamboled about like a sheep. It learned to eat grass, even though its stomach didn't have the hydrochloric acid to do it. And it even learned to go, ma, ma. Well, it was living its new life. I shouldn't say new life because it didn't have any other life to compare it to. When one day a full-grown tiger on the prowl came across the sheep with a tiger cub in it and thought to itself, what's that cub doing there? So it charged down into the herd, and now the sheep, knowing the difference between the cub and the tiger, they ran for its life. But the cub, innately having no fear of its own, stood there blinking, wondering, where's everybody going? And the big tiger comes up and says, what are you doing here? And the cub looks up at the tiger and goes, ma, ma. Oh, mind, it was mortified. So it grabbed it by the scruff of its neck, it brought it over to the local lake and said, look at yourself, you're like me. And now the cub, seeing its own true face as reflected in nature for the first time, it looked in the water and it looked up at the tiger. It looked in the water, it looked up at the tiger. It had to admit, it looked more like the tiger than it did the sheep. Now, I don't know how these things happen. I'm just a storyteller, but you know how these things happen. All of a sudden, somewhere from deep inside came Tiger Roar 101. Oh, and it freaked the cub. Where did that come from? But secretly, it felt good. Then the tiger said, come on, come back to the cave where I have a recently killed gazelle, and I'll give you some meat. So it grabbed a bloody chunk of meat and gave it to the tiger cub, and the tiger cub said, but I'm a vegetarian. And the tiger said, we'll have none of that. And it shoved the meat in its maw, and it started to gag. And the commentary in the scripture says, as all do on true doctrine. But once its proper nourishment got into its system, once it was eating what it should have been eating from day one, once it was feeling the power of what was proper for it, I don't know how these things happen, but you know how these things happen. Somewhere from deep inside came Tiger Roar 102. That didn't feel freaky at all. Felt really right. Then the big tiger said to the cub, now come on into the forest and I'll show you how to hunt for tiger food. So the moral of the story is we're all spiritual giants who've been raised by material pygmies. And when you come home from a yoga class, there might be a naysayer in your group or your family who says, hey, so what'd you do in yoga? You wrap your leg around your neck like a pretzel? No, we didn't do that. But you had to rock autistically to the sound of your own om, right? No, we didn't do that either. Well, come on, be honest with me. You had to contemplate your navel and chant om. No, we didn't do that either. Oh, really? Well, did your teacher have anything to say? Oh, yeah, my teacher had something to say. Well, what did your teacher say? My teacher said that the purpose of yoga was to discover your tiger face. Now, my Dharma talk for today has to do with reminding you, as well as reminding myself, because, you know, all these teachings really are for me, but there's nothing personal in what I'm saying. It's all impersonal, archetypal. So the 10 steps for success in yoga is number one, stop doing the wrong things. And that's what yamas and niyamas are all about. Get a standard of ethics that raises your ideal to a high bar below which you don't want to fall. Number two, stop saying things that make you sound weaker than you really are. That's the power of satya. Even if it's true, don't give lip service to that. Number three, Learn from your errors. Everybody makes mistakes. The only person who doesn't make a mistake is somebody who doesn't try anything. And that's called viveka, discrimination. Then you won't do that again. Number 4, have a conversation with yourself. Tap the inner guru, the higher wisdom that you have, the intuitive guidance that constantly cometh from within, if you can quiet yourself down enough to hear it. Guru means the dispeller of the darkness. Everybody has this voice of light and conscience in them. Once you listen, then the 5th step is take a meaningful path. That's called your marga, the specific unrollment of the optimum way that you're going to grow. And if you learn to do that, then you're led to the Dharma, which is learning to adopt an authentic mode of being in your life. And when you do that, you will probably learn to sit and meditate, or at least sit in silence if you don't want to glorify it with the name of meditation. And when you sit still, sit in silence, you're going to clarify your thinking. When you clarify your thinking, you get to the 7th part, which is you specify your goals, and that's called sankalpa in yoga. And the difference between sankalpa and a New Year's intention, New Year's resolution, is on sankalpa, you've learned to use your will to follow through and make it happen. Or as I like to say from the Marine part of myself, get her done, son. No excuses. Excuses be gone. Just get her done. I'm not going to tell you more than once. Then you move to step 9, which is make a schedule for yourself. Discipline yourself. It's called sadhana in yoga, the corpus of practices that anybody uses to develop their spirituality under whatever form or name you call it or unname it. But do it. And as the Dalai Lama says, when asked, what's the key to spiritual practice, he says, regularity. And we're not talking about taking prune juice. Consistently, daily, for the rest of your life. Then finally, the 10th step to success, aim high. Aim for moksha, aim for spiritual liberation, aim for being out of bondage to whatever keeps you enslaved. Letting go of everything that doesn't serve you, or what you don't need so bad, or what you're better off without. And if you do that, you will have learned the 10 steps to yoga success. Have a great day.